The fork froze halfway to my mouth when Charlie's voice cut through what had been a peaceful dinner. "So, David," he said, smooth, like he practiced in a mirror. "That safe upstairs. What kind of lock does it have? Across the table, my—" Daughter Lauren nearly choked on her water. "Charlie, what kind of question is that?" Charlie didn't look at her. His smile was for me. That smile always wore the same two words. Just curious. It was the kind of smile men use when they think the oldest person in the room will confuse charm with respect. I set my fork down and folded my hands, a habit I picked up in contractor meetings back when I ran crews and had to keep peace without losing the plot. "What break-ins?" I asked mildly. "I've lived in this neighborhood 15 years. Biggest emergency we've had was Mrs. Henderson's cat in a tree." He waved a hand. "You probably don't hear about them. Keep it quiet to avoid panic." He leaned forward, elbows on my table. "But a man your age living alone in a house this size, you must have some serious security." Lauren shifted in her chair. "Dad's careful. He locks up." "That's enough, Charlie, right?" he said. "But what about insurance?" "Yeah, I mean, God forbid something happens to you. Lauren would need to know where everything important is kept, wouldn't she?" He said "God forbid" like a joke. The room felt an inch smaller. I watched his face the way you watch sky before a storm. Pupils dilated when he said my demise. Fingers drummed when I didn't answer fast. He'd been rehearsing. This? He was trying to make tonight the night he learned the shape of my life on his terms. "I have everything organized," I said. "Lauren knows what she needs to know." Charlie's smile widened. "But does she know about the key?" It hung. There, the way smoke hangs when a pan gets too hot. Lauren looked between us. "What key?" she asked. Genuine confusion. "The one in your dad's bedroom drawer?" Charlie said lightly. "The one that— How do you know about any key in my bedroom?" I asked. And my voice came out sharper than I meant. For a second, the mask slid. Something cold looked out. Then his concern-swapping expression returned. "I was looking for aspirin last week. Head was killing me." He nodded toward Lauren. "She told me to check your bathroom cabinet, but I opened the wrong drawer first. Sorry, didn't mean to invade your privacy." Lauren nodded, eager to smooth. "I remember that headache. You stayed upstairs for a while. So did I 30 minutes. Long enough to do more than rummage for aspirin." "Aspirin is in the medicine cabinet," I said quietly. "Always has been." His jaw tightened just enough to notice. Must have been really out of it from the pain. We limped through the rest of dinner. He kept circling back the way a dog circles a spot where it buried something. Questions about my bank. Who else had keys? My daily schedule. Each query felt like a thumb pressing a bruise to see if it still hurt. When we finished, Lauren stood. "I'll do dishes, Dad. You cooked." "I don't mind," I said, already stacking plates. The routine helps me think. Wash, rinse, dry. "Put away, come on, honey," Charlie told her, hand on her shoulder. "Let your dad handle his kitchen. We should get some rest." They disappeared upstairs. A minute later, I heard their door close. I scrubbed a plate and replayed his words. The too casual mention of my safe, the key that didn't exist until he brought it to life with his mouth. The mention of my death floated there, oily, behind. It all the flags I'd pretended were laundry lines for the last 3 weeks flapped in my head. The unemployment story that never had dates. It's only adjectives. The way he studied my house like it had blueprints in the paint. How his compliments always ended in a question about money. I set the last glass to dry and hung the dish towel on its hook. The kitchen was back in order. My house was not. Upstairs, muffled voices, then quiet. I dried my hands and went to see what other surprises waited in my own home. In the hallway, the runner I'd tacked down in 2011 creaked on the fourth board. It always has. You learn the noises of a house if you want to grow old in it without fighting it. That night, the house felt like a partner who wanted me to say out loud what we both knew. Something had changed in my room. I sat on the edge of way. The bed turned the light off and waited for my eyes to learn the dark. The moonlight through the slats made pale ladders on the floor. I could hear the old maple outside tapping the gutter with a branch I'd been meaning to trim. I could feel my heartbeat not in my chest but in my fingers. I stood and opened the top right drawer of my dresser. The sock drawer. Men like me are predictable on purpose. We keep simple things where simple minds look for them. That's what Charlie thought anyway. I moved a pair of wool socks aside and looked at what lay under them. Not a key. Not anything that opens metal. Two things. Small. Enough to fit in a palm. The first was a simple note in my hand. If you found this, you just made a mistake. Stand. Still, look up. The second was a spare memory card. The kind you'd miss if you don't know what recording looks like when it keeps its mouth shut. I slid the drawer closed. Slow. The camera at the top corner of the bookshelf, small as a pencil. Eraser lens no bigger than a freckle watched the door. I had installed it last week after Charlie spent 30 minutes upstairs with a stomachache. I didn't call him a liar. I let a tool tell me the truth later. Before bed, I checked the app. The cameras were set on motion. 2 in the hall. One in my room, one a dummy in the office, didn't record but looked like it wanted to. The real one sat behind a grating in the ceiling, hidden by the register no one notices because it's always been there. I am not a spy. I am a 70-year-old man who built houses and knows how to keep a corner square by checking 2 measurements from a third point. I set my phone on the nightstand and slid the Do Not Disturb 2 off. I lay down. I closed my eyes. I breathed the way you breathe when you're pretending to sleep for a play you didn't audition for. You don't wait for the sound. You let the house tell you when it comes. It came at 1:18 a.m. Lauren's door opened soft. 2 sets of footsteps to the bathroom. 1 back to bed. Then, 20 minutes later, the careful sound everyone makes when they want to be quiet and don't understand that quiet isn't the absence of noise. It's the absence of intention. Slow hinges. Wait on the 3rd stair. Pause at the 4th because it creaks. Then 3 more. Then my door. I rolled gently to my side, away from the dresser. The moonlight made the floor a page. In it, a shadow. He waited. I did not move. He took 2 steps in. He went to the dresser and stood like a man who has watched someone else do it and practiced their posture. He wore socks. I always notice feet. That's where math lives in a house. How pressure shifts when guilt gets heavy. The top right drawer slid open the way a drawer full of socks does. Soft resistance, then give. His breath went shallow on the exhale. That's the sound a man makes when he thinks he's getting away with something, and the world forgot to tell him it is not asleep. He lifted the socks. He saw the note. His shoulders tightened. He froze like a deer in a cul-de-sac, pretending the car can't see it if it doesn't blink. Then he looked up. The small light on the camera is off by design. He looked to the bookshelf, maybe remembering the app icon on my phone. Then his eyes snagged, not on my lens, but on the item I had left on purpose, half an inch proud under the socks so cloth didn't erase it. A photo. Glossy for -by-6.him. From last week, in this room, hand in my drawer, mouth pinched into. That same practicing smile, missing the eyes by a mile. The date stamp rode the bottom edge in neat, unforgiving white. He went white, then yellow. I have watched paint dry 1,000 times. Human faces dry the same way when they realize they are the wet part in a room full of dry wood. He reached for the photo with 2 fingers like it could leak. He held it in the moonlight. He read the date. He looked at me. I didn't move. I let the seconds stack until they had enough friends to make a minute. He set the photo down, careful, the way you put a hot pan on a counter you hope is stone. He slid the drawer closed. He stood, breathing like a boy caught in a locker room, where a teacher knows the smell of smoke. He took 2 steps backward, turned, and left. The hall swallowed his shadow. The door eased into its frame. The 4th stair still creaked. I opened my eyes. I didn't smile triumph. I smiled relief. Not because I'd won anything, because the house had done what houses do when people respect them. They tell stories for you when you're tired. I picked up my phone and watched the footage on mute. He had done exactly what men like him do. Made a move when he thought no one was looking, and then pretended the move belonged to someone else when the lights came on. I saved the clips to the spare card, ejected it, set it back in the drawer beneath. The note then, I took the photo he'd held and slid it into an envelope with 3 others, one from the night of the stomachache, one from earlier this evening when he paused at my office door long enough to measure it with his eyes, and one from last Wednesday when he helped Lauren bring groceries up and left his handprints on the inside of the door to the garage. I wrote his name on the front, Charlie, not to mail, to use when the paper needed a name to write into a room in the morning. I made coffee and scrambled eggs and put a plate on the island the way I have since the Carter administration. I set out 3 mugs. He came down a minute after Lauren, hair mussed, mouth arranged toward apology, eyes hunting. For an exit, sleep okay? I asked him, handing him a mug. Yeah, he said. Thanks. Lauren kissed my cheek, caught my eye, smiled the old smile, genuine, tired. Kendon sat with a sigh that sounded like we were pretending it normal and doing pretty well. I'm sorry for last night, she said quickly. Charlie gets weird about crime shows. He's worried about your house. It's a good house, I said. It keeps time. Charlie looked at the island like it was a table at a negotiation. About last night, not now, I said gently. After work, before dinner, my office. Lauren glanced between. Us? Everything okay? It will be, I said. Eat. They did. He watched me drain my mug and rinse it like I do every day. He watched me hang the towel on its hook. He watched me write a list on the pad by the phone, a habit that keeps me honest about what I mean to do on. He tried to read it upside down. Men who steal with their hands practice reading upside down because they think plans live in ink, not in a spine. My list had 3 lines. Locks. Schedule. Rekey. Friday safe. Check hinges. Change combo. New decoy key call Marion. 10 a.m. He paleoloed again at the word decoy. Oh. Though he couldn't possibly have read that from across. The kitchen. But guilt changes eyesight. Words jump out of ink when they belong to you. They left for the day, and watch them go from the front window, not hiding, just witnessing. Lauren kissed my cheek again on the way out and said, I need to borrow a mixing bowl Saturday, a big one. Don't let me forget, won't I said. Charlie held the door like a gentleman. He held my eye like a man trying not to blink when they drove off. I took the envelope with his name on it to the office and set it on the corner of the desk. I called Marion at 10. Morning, David, she said, voice bright like a pen with ink that doesn't skip. A state attorney, steady mind. She'd set up my trust after Barbara passed, added the scholarship fund clause. Made sure the old house would walk itself to the right place when I ran out of rope. I need to make some adjustments, I said. I need you to tell me how. To say a sentence I've never said out loud without putting the wrong weight on it. Which sentence? She asked. My daughter married a man who opens drawers at night, I said. And I think he wants a key that doesn't exist to a safe that doesn't matter. She didn't pretend it was uncommon. People like Marion live where the stories end up when the talking stops. Come by this afternoon, she said. Bring the papers and bring your patience. We'll build a boundary and call it a plan. I hung up and called Morales' locksmith. Friday at 3, he said. Rekey all? Add deadbolts? Might be a good time for a keypad change, all, I said. And yes, I went upstairs and opened the safe, not because of Charlie, because good practice is good practice. Combination, unchanged for 5 years, reset, hinges, oiled, contents. Reviewed, my safe holds less than Charlie thinks and more than he can count. Not money. Paper. The deed that says my house lives in a trust with my daughter's name on it and not my son-in-law's. The letter Barbara. Wrote me the year Lauren. Graduated high school. A small pouch with my father's watch. Copies of 3 birth certificates and 2 passports, and 1 card that still smells like the physics lab at Lincoln High, because ink holds on to rooms longer than people do. I closed it, spun the dial, then slid the new decoy key into a little dish on the dresser, half hidden, half not. It opens a fireproof box in the closet that holds old sanding pads and an Allen wrench I always misplace. If a man wants to feel like a hero with a key in his hand, I will not insult him by making the lockless world the only choice. Let him open a box and feel the emptiness that comes with confusing metal for security. At 4:30, Lauren and Charlie returned. He looked like a man who had practiced sorry in the car mirror and wasn't sure how to wear it. "Office?" I said. "Sure," he said. He sat. I did not sit. Standing is useful when you want your spine to do the talking for you. "I know you were in my room last night," I said. "And last week," his mouth opened, shut. "Yeah," he started. "You're on tape," I said. I tapped the envelope. With his name on it, not a threat, a fact. "I put these in here so you don't miss what the truth looks like when it's on paper." He reached for the envelope. I didn't let go until I saw his eyes drop. He looked at the photos. He went pale again. "I'm sorry," he said, automatic. "I was looking for aspirin," I supplied. "I know," I said. "Listen, then you speak." I told him what I knew. The timing, the drawer, the note, the camera. I told him what I guessed, the break-in story he made up, the inheritance he thinks lives in a safe, the way he says God forbid like a man talking to himself about odds. I told him what I had changed, the locks, the code, the safe. I told him what I planned to do, change, document, and put my daughter in a position where love doesn't build ladders for a man who can't climb. "You will never open a drawer in my house at night again," I said, even not loud. "You will not ask me about my safe, my lock, my code, my bank, my schedule. Will not be in this house without my daughter while I'm upstairs. If you need aspirin, you will ask. If your stomach hurts, the bathroom has a clock." He stared at the photos again. "I'm not a thief," he said. Like the sentence could learn to be true if he practiced it enough. "Then you'll like these rules," I said. "They keep you from being mistaken for one." He looked toward the door, toward the kitchen, toward the part of the house where my daughter has kept her laugh since she could make one. "Lauren will decide what she decides," I said. "I won't ask her to choose. I won't pretend I don't see." He put the photos back in the envelope, as if returning a tool to a shop that didn't want to loan it in the first place. "What if I say you can't tell me what to do in your house?" he asked, testing the edge because men like him can't help themselves. "Then you won't be in it," I said. "Your choice tells me mine." He swallowed. "Okay," he said. Not like a man agreeing. Like a man seeing a map he didn't draw and realizing the road goes where it goes. We stood. He left the office, moved through the kitchen like he was walking past a dog he hoped didn't remember a shoe, and joined Lauren in the living room. I heard her say, "Everything okay?" And his answer too quick, too round, too practiced. "Yeah, all good. Your dad and I are cool." We were not cool. We were in the part of the day where temperature stops pretending to be the only sign. That night, after they went to bed, I lay awake and listened to the house. The fourth stair creaked only once. Me. The hallway stayed honest. The drawer stayed. Closed. At 2:11 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion in the hall. Lauren to the bathroom and back. Motion in my room. The maple tapping the gutter through the open window. Smiled. Small. The house was teaching me how to sleep again. And then, at 2:45, a notification from the front porch camera. Figure on the step. Not Charlie. Not Lauren. A stranger. Hoodie. Ball cap. Right hand gloved. Left bare.
Ow.
He bent, picked up nothing. No. Package was there straightened, and took out his phone as if to text a photo of nothing to someone who wanted to know if nobody was watching. I sat up. Quiet isn't the absence of noise. It's the presence of choice. Time to see who else thought. My house was a story they could write. At 2:45 a.m., the porch camera woke the phone with a whisper and a thumbnail. A hood, bill of a cap, one hand bare, one gloved. He bent toward my welcome mat, like he expected to see a box appear from air if he looked hard enough. I watched him. On the live feed. 40 maybe, thin. He held his phone at his waist and took a picture of nothing. Either he was collecting proof for someone else, or he'd been told there would be a package here. Left under the fiction that we live in a world where gifts show up at dawn for free, I thumbed the intercom. Smile for the camera. He didn't. Jump. Men like him have too much practice to flinch. He angled the bill of his cap and let my porch light wash his jaw long enough to be useful. Then he walked away, slow, because running admits a script. I saved the clip, timestamp and all, and texted it to myself and to a contact officer. Win had given me last year after a run of porch thefts to neighborhoods over. Non-emergency dispatch. Attached, still of face. Message, stranger on my stoop. 2:45 a.m., photo of nothing, expecting a package. A delivery, just FYI, not requesting contact tonight. At 8:05, while the kettle was singing, Win texted back, got it. That same face hit. 14th and Alder last week, porch pirate, thanks for the still. I sent him the full clip. He sent back a thumbs up and a line I liked because it told me I wasn't turning my house into a precinct. If he comes back, call. Keep your lights boring and your cameras honest. At 3 p.m. that Friday, Morales rekeyed every lock. We stood in. My foyer plastic bin of old brass in his hand. You want the old keys back? He asked. No, I said. Throw them in the scrap. He nodded. The way tradesmen nod when your choices make their work easier. We swapped the deadbolt on the side door and handed me a new code card for the keypad with a code I'd already decided I could remember without writing it down. Want me to hit the garage too? He asked. Yes, I said. And could you install one more deadbolt on the office door? Inside? Hi. Old houses earn privacy, he grinned. I like when a house gets stricter in its old age. After Morales left, I set the next layer on. The dresser, half hidden under the cuff of a folded sock. I placed the decoy keep lane brass, cheap bow, the kind hardware stores keep by the register. It opened the firebox in the closet that held sanding pads, an Allen wrench, and 2 blank spiral notebooks. That was the point. On the underside of the decoy keys bow, I rubbed a soft film of tracer powder I'd bought at a supply shop 10 years ago when a job site started seeing tools walk away between Friday and Monday. Under normal light, it looks like dust. Under a small ultraviolet flashlight, the kind my grandkids once used to hunt glow bugs in the backyard, it blooms bright and stupid, telling on fingers and fabric. I also wiped a faint coat along the inside lip of the dresser drawer pull and the metal track. It wouldn't hurt anyone. It would make a point if points needed making. On the very top of the sock stack, it's just proud enough to cast a thought. I placed a fresh envelope with the name Charlie in block letters at the top. Inside, 2 copies of the photos, one for him to take, if he thought collecting evidence of his own mistake would help him control the story, and a single printed sheet Marion had given me that afternoon with her polite lawyer face on. It's the title. Notice of boundaries for residents at 834 Brookfield non-legal. Marion doesn't write non-legal documents. She writes legal adjacent sentences that inform choices without making threats. It said 3 things. You are welcome here as my daughter's husband, not as my banker, locksmith, or night watchman. No drawers after 10 p.m. ask for aspirin. My estate is in a trust. Your name is not on it. Any attempt to access, move, or safeguard items from this house without my consent ends your welcome here. Further boundary violations will be documented, communicated to law enforcement as criminal trespass. At the bottom, a line I had asked Marion to add because I like paper that makes room for good days. If you want a second chance at this room, ask. Daytime, door open. We'll try again. I slid the envelope back under the socks. It would sit there, like a book waiting to be checked out by the right hands. Or the wrong ones. Saturday was a day my house likes. Breakfast. Amazon driver on time. Lauren measuring flour in my kitchen with a fuss I used to hear when she was 8 and trying to bake with too much salt. Charlie taking the trash out on a reasonable schedule. Trust is a muscle. Suspicion is also one. I didn't want to let either get stronger than the other. That takes practice. At noon, Lauren walked to the market up the hill to get lemons. Charlie lingered. He'll want help with the air filters, David, he asked, standing in my office doorway. The figure he thinks is helpful arranged like a photo in a catalog. In a minute, I said. After I finish this call, he nodded, stepped away, then leaned back in, the way some men test rooms. Just wanted to say, thanks for the talk the other night. I get it. Good, I said. See you in the kitchen in 10. He smiled. The practicing smile and ghosted down the hall. The fourth stair didn't creak. He'd learned it too. I ended the fake call and watched the hall camera feed. Charlie walked past the bathroom, past the linen cupboard, past the guest room, where the window sticks unless you lift, then push. He didn't even hesitate. He went straight to my bedroom door, pushed, stepped in. The drawer slid open. He lifted the socks. His hand touched the decoy key. He saw the envelope. He froze. It's a different kind of freeze than the first night. It's a kind that lingers when a man recognizes his name written in someone else's hand and realizes he's not the protagonist he thought he was. He pulled the envelope, opened it, read, and read again. He looked toward the bookshelf, Cameron, not at it, exactly, but in its direction. Like a dog staring at noise. Then he did a thing I recorded because I wanted to remember it later when the parts of me that love my daughter want to negotiate with truth. He closed the envelope, put it back, and wiped his fingertips on the front of his jeans without looking at them. If you've never watched tracer powder work, the first time is almost funny. Fingers that had looked like anything now looked like you could pick them out of a lineup with the lights off.
Ow.
The powder bloomed fluorescent around his cuticles and across his index finger where he'd pinched the bow of the key. He didn't see it yet. UV needs a light and a decision. He tucked his hair, patted his pockets, and left my room. I took my UV pen light from the desk drawer and waited in the office like a man who'd mentioned air filters on purpose. Filters, he said, like he'd been asked to play himself in a commercial. Let's do it, I said. We went to the hall closet. He reached for the top shelf and pulled the first filter down. Where do you keep the flashlight? Beckett asked, natural as. Sugar, right here, I said, and clicked on the UV. It washed the edges of the closet purple. His hands lit up. He looked down, didn't understand what he was seeing for a second, and he did. That's he, started tracer powder, I said. Harmless, honest. His mouth closed. His throat moved. Again, the denim glowed. I asked you for 10 minutes, I said, not because I needed to finish a call, because I needed to see what you'd do when the hallway was empty and your head wasn't. He stared at his hands. He looked 12 and guilty and 40 and trapped all at once. It's not you, he said, reaching for a line that might let him live here. It's impulse. I don't know why I then stop, I said. You're an adult. Adults aren't puppets. He exhaled. The room felt like it wanted to unclench. He rubbed his hands again out of reflex and made the glow worse. Bathroom, I said. Soap takes it off. Careful on the towel. It glows too. He washed. He came back. He looked at the floor when he said, I'll not. Again. Good, I said. Now we set the line in ink so you don't have to remember it at 2 a.m. Out. That afternoon, I printed Marion's notice. Of boundaries, twice, one for the envelope, one for the fridge. I put the fridge one under a magnet shaped like a lemon that had been there since Lauren was a teenager. I circled the 3 bullets. Lauren saw it when she got back with the real lemons and said nothing because not all boundary setting needs applause. At 8 p.m., the porch camera pinged again. The hoodie from 2 nights earlier. He bent to take a picture of nothing and then looked up because the floodlight did what floodlights do when you ask them to tell the truth. Officer Wynn's cruiser turned onto the street 5 seconds later. Slow enough to be polite, fast enough to matter. The man didn't run. He sauntered. He didn't make it to the end of the block without Wynn saying, evening, and got a minute. In that flat voice good cops use when they aren't trying to be your friend and don't plan to be your enemy either. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Wynn. We had a chat. He has a warning and a note with your address under friendly pickup. If anything actually shows, call. Also, tell your porch. It photographs nicely. Sunday morning, I read the newspaper and fried bacon and tried to teach my house that sleep was allowed again. Lauren came down first in socks, with split ends that needed trimming and a smile that lived where I like it inside, without explanation. Good morning, she said. Morning, I said. Lemon scones happen today or tomorrow. Today, she said, so we'll have something to eat. When you tell Charlie the second part of the rules. I already told him the first, I said. I know, she said. She poured coffee and perched on the stool like she used to when she told me secrets about math tests and who liked who. Dad, she added, tone careful without being brittle. I need you to say the next sentence out loud so I can stop negotiating with it in my head. Which sentence? I asked, even though I had a hunch that if he keeps it up, she said, eyes on her mug. He can't live here. Even if we're married, even if I ask you to let him, I need to know you'll pick your house and your spine. If I decide to leave, instead of letting him turn me into someone who hides keys for a living, I will, I said. I do. She nodded once and breathed in a way that made me feel both like a father and like someone watching a teammate pick up the right tool. Charlie came down at 9:30, washed. No glow. He was quieter. Quiet can be contrition. It can also be strategy. I don't get to decide which for him, breakfast. I asked. Thanks, he said. We ate. After I took them both to the fridge and pointed to the lemon magnet and the notice. Read it, I told Lauren. She did. She looked at Charlie when she finished. Okay, she asked him. He swallowed. Okay, say it, I said, because words said out loud are easier to hold in your hand when you need them. Okay, he said again. No drawers. No questions about money. No. Nothing. No, I said, not nothing. Plenty. Help with the trash. Shh. Fix the hinge you. Asked about. Be funny if you can. Eat lemon scones and do the dishes. But nothing in this house without asking at night. Okay, he said, the third time sounding like it found a place to sit Monday morning. I went to Marian's office and we added one line to my trust. At the back, near the parts that look like footnotes and save families from courtroom drama. If any spouse of any beneficiary violates written, house boundaries on 3 or more occasions in any 12-month period, the trustee shall, at the trustees' sole discretion, suspend distributions to that beneficiary for a period not to exceed 6 months. Harsh? I asked Marian. Human, she said. You're not punishing your daughter, making sure the gravity of a household choice shows up in numbers when necessary. Money is a language. Boundaries speak it too, signed. She witnessed. We shook hands. I went home and changed the battery in the porch camera because boring maintenance is my kind of religion. That night, at 1:04 a.m., the hall camera caught Charlie stand in their doorway, hesitate, and then close it again. I watched in bed and exhaled. Choices are habits. Habits are ladders or holes. At 3:11, the camera pinged again. Not for footsteps. My bedroom drawer was open, not from the front. From the back, where an old house with an old dresser has an old trick. A board that can be pushed from behind if you pull a certain way on the wall, closet's false bottom. It's a move you learn when you build rooms and keep extra cut nails where kids won't find them and wear. Thieves won't think to try. The feed showed the drawer track slide. For a second, my skin went cold and the shape in the closet shifted. And I recognized the outline of my winter coats on their hangers. I got up. I didn't make noise. The house doesn't like noise at night when it knows your name. I opened the closet door and pushed the coats. I'd no man behind them, no hands through the false bottom. The false bottom itself had sagged on its nail like an eyelid that wanted to quit. The board glowed faintly in the blacklight wash from my open pen light on the dresser. I looked down. The glow had transferred to 2 other prints on the closet floor, small, round toes. From the house cat that Michelle from next door had asked Lauren to watch for the week. The cat had been in our closet at some point, padded along the dusted track while I was out in the yard, and then went off to sleep on my sweater, like a god that doesn't understand locks. I laughed once, careful, then fixed the false bottom, properly. I imagined the cat's fluorescent paws like tiny testimonies against my need to make drama where there wasn't any, at 1:18 the next night. A different glow. The porch light snapped to life. A delivery reel for me. Small box with a return address I recognized. Marian. Inside, 2 copies of the signed amendment, and a note on her stationery. Written in a hand that learned law before email. Sleep is a civil right. So are locks. I put the amendment in the safe. I put the note in the drawer above the decoy key and left the UV pen light beside it for no one to find. 2 nights later, Charlie opened the drawer again. I know because the camera caught his shoulder. His careful attempt at being careful, the way a man does when he believes he is owed a second shot at a better choice. This time, picked up the envelope and didn't open it. He set it down, looked at the note in Marion's hand, scanned the top line, sleep is a civil right, and paused. He looked over at me. I didn't pretend to be asleep, sat up. I turned on the lamp, looked at him like men look at other men. When talk is over and the house deserves quiet, he saw the photos in the envelope again. He saw his name. He saw my face. It was very still. What he saw next is what he will never forget. I reached into the drawer and, under the socks, under Marion's note, and the envelope with his name, I pulled out a single-page printout and handed it to him. It was not a threat. No. It was not a letter. It was a copy of the county court's public record from 8 years ago, his old name at the top. 1 charge, attempted burglary. Dismissed on a plea to trespass and a fine. My red circle around the line. That read, entered dwelling at night without permission. He stared. His one hand trembled. He read the date. He saw the sealed line for a name that wasn't his now. I don't care about your past, I said, keeping my voice low, because this is a small house and Lauren's sleep matters more than anything. I care about what you do in my present. You will not add a second entry to a story that doesn't need a sequel. He swallowed. His eyes glossed for the first time since I'd known him. How did you county website? I said. Public. Record. I didn't go looking. I went reading after you opened my drawer. He held the page like it was a coal, cooling to something he could hold. Put it back in my hand carefully, nodding once in a way I recognized not from men like him, but from crews of mine who had cut a board wrong, learned, and didn't cut it wrong again. Okay, he said. For the first time, the word meant yes. He left my room. He closed the door. I put the paper away. I turned off the lamp. I lay down. In the morning, he came to the kitchen with his eyes steady and said, David, can I ask you for a different kind of help? Try, I said. A job lead, he said. Anything that makes my hands tired and my head quiet. Tomorrow, I said. 8 A.M. Morales could use a helper. You'll carry deadbolts and learn to make keys that belong in people's hands, not under their socks. He breathed like a man who hadn't asked for a safe in 3 days and liked the shape of that better. Lauren looked between us. Bacon first, she said, then jobs. We ate. We printed a resume that told the truth without telling stories. Put the coin, no coin. This isn't that story. Put a list of hardware stores in his pocket. We taught him the code. To carry out the trash and not the one that unlocks what isn't his. I called Morales. You still like workers who stand up? Always, he said. By noon, Charlie was in a van, learning how to rekey without imagining drawers. I set my phone, face down, and took a nap in my own bed. The safe upstairs was boring. That is its job. The drawer? It held socks. 1 UV pen light, 1 lawyer's note, 1 envelope with a man's name on it. In the quiet weight of a sentence, I finally said under a lemon magnet in a kitchen that smelled like coffee and forgiveness, neither of which were free. Asterisk Morales's. Van smelled like cut brass, graphite, and coffee that had sat long enough to pick up trade secrets. Charlie slid into the passenger seat at 7:58 a.m., hands empty, eyes steady in the way a man's eyes get when he has decided to let work do the talking. Rule 1, Morales said, merging like a gentleman. We don't touch what isn't ours. Rule 2, every key belongs to a person. Rule 3, our job is to make the right key turn and the wrong one stop. Charlie nodded, more listening than I'd seen in him since he met my daughter. They hit 3 houses before lunch, 1 recce for a woman who had fired a contractor. With wandering hands, 1 rescue for a small business whose back door latch had a grudge. And a deadbolt install on a bungalow that had tried to do security with good intentions, and a chain you could cut with kitchen scissors. Morale's taught in sentences you could put in your pocket. Keys are like promises, he said, driving a cylinder pin down with a pick. They mean more because of what they don't open. When they returned mid-afternoon, Charlie carried a tote and a quiet I didn't distrust. He stood in my doorway with graphite on his knuckles and said, "It's good to make something work. That's supposed to." "Come back tomorrow," Morales called from the van. "We'll teach you how to repin without cursing." Charlie laughed. It sounded like a small bolt turned the right way on the first try. At 6 p.m., the porch camera pinged. Not a hoodie. Win, in his cruiser, slow roll. A polite tap on the horn so I wouldn't think it was anything other than neighborly. "Evening," he said. "Two things. Your porch pirate came back to Alder last night. Didn't saunter this time. We picked him up with a bag full of friendly pickup notes, including your address. He's out on a summons. He won't be back here if he wants to keep his evenings." "Thank you," I said. Second, Win added, looking toward the Basil on the step. "Told our rookie to put 'don't open it' on his fridge. He moved in with his girlfriend last month. Packages are a language now." I nodded. "Boring saves lives." He grinned. My favorite kind of hero. When he left, I watched the block do what it does. Garbage cans to the curb. Sprinklers pretending rain, Mrs. Lynn's grandson on FaceTime, showing her a bird that looked like a mess and a king at once. Sunday came and went the way my house asks. 4. Breakfast. Tools back where tired hands can find them. Dinner at 6 with lemon scones and a magnet on the fridge that held 3 lines like a hinge. Charlie washed the dishes without glancing down the hall. I did not praise him for not snooping. You don't praise a person for not falling down. On Tuesday, the envelope with his name moved without my hand. I'd set it back in the drawer after the second night. That afternoon, while Lauren stirred something that smelled like cinnamon and good news, she came into my office holding the envelope like a person who has decided to stop reading around the words, "Dad." She said simple. "Can I? Should I?" Her face didn't ask for permission to know. It asked for a seat at her life. "Sit," I said. "We'll read it together." We did. Photos first. For Charlie, hand in a drawer that isn't his, mouth arranged toward. Excuses it would learn to hate, the notice from Marion with its 3 lines under a lemon magnet, read aloud in my office, like a poem that had a job. And the record from the county, the old name, the old charge, the line about entering a dwelling at night. Lauren stared at that line. She flattened the page with her palm. She didn't cry. Her throat did one small swallow. "He should have told me," she said. "I didn't say the sentence fathers say when they want to be the hero. I didn't say I told you, or he's no good." I said, "Do you want him to tell you now?" "Yes," she said. Then, softer, honest. "But I want to hear the part he tells himself before he tells me." "Call him," I said. "My house." Daylight. Door open, he came. Stood in the doorway like the kid who shows up to the principal's office early, so the clock loses its bite. Lauren held the paper. "I don't care about 8 years ago," she said without preface. "I care that you opened a drawer in my father's room at night, like the story hadn't taught you anything." He took a breath that shaped an apology into something functional. "I was 22, he said. Stupid, drinking. It was a garage. A judge gave me a second chance and I almost did it again because my hands wanted a key they didn't earn. Looked at me, then back at him. Are you going to be the person who puts his hands where they belong? Shh. Because I'm not making my life into a set of drawers to hide things in." "Yes," he said. "I want to be that person." "Good," she said. "Start with yourself, then this house. Then if it holds me." They sat with it. Then she hugged him because she could and walked back to the kitchen because dinner needed to get made. He exhaled once and looked at me the way a man looks at a man who has drawn a line he didn't want but needed. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" I asked. "Not calling the cops," he said. "And not letting me pretend." "Work at 8, I said. "Morales hates late." He grinned, small and real. "He does." That night, I opened the safe. Not because the story needed a dramatic reveal, Because my daughter needed to know that the thing Charlie wanted to turn into a treasure map was a file cabinet with a heart. Set the safe on the table and spun the dial with the numbers my hands remember. The way hands remember how to hold a baby. Lauren sat across from me. Charlie stood in the doorway and did not cross the threshold until I said, "You can look." Inside, no jewelry trays.
No bundles.
No Barbarian Dragon Horde paper. Sturdy in order, labeled trust documents with tabs, and the sentence Marion. Made clean, any spouse who violates Rittenhouse boundaries 3 times in a year triggers a 6-month pause, not punishment. Gravity, the deed that said my house belongs to the trust, not to men who marry into it thinking houses are ATM machines. With roofs, insurance papers, power of attorney, medical directives. Boring in the religious way. A folder labeled Lauren College with copies of her transcript. A letter her mother wrote freshman year. One photo of her at Moven with a poster of some band I can't remember the name of, and a grin that could power a city. Barbara's letters, 2. One for me on our 30th. One for Lauren the day she got her first job. I handed Lauren hers. I waited until it would feel like a present and not a ghost, I said. An old watch. My father's. Still ticks if you wind it. It tells time. Doesn't make it. A USB drive with scans of the things you regret not backing up, and at the very bottom, the folder labeled plain blue. The scholarship clause Glenn printed, and I signed in a room with the district superintendent that smelled like dry erase and hope. A plan to give small money to kids with big plans and no taste for. Drama Lauren reached for that one. Plain blue? She asked, smiling at the name. Nothing flashy, I said. Just enough? A plan on paper? Blue as in boring? Blue as in the color of good envelopes, not stickers. She thumbed the letter Barbara wrote her. She didn't open it then. She put it against her heart and held it there for a second, like that's how paper works best, between a hand and a rib. Dad, she said. Thank you for the safe, I asked. For showing me what it's for, she said. It's not a secret. It's a place where we keep our grown-up. She laughed at herself. I laughed with her. Charlie smiled in the doorway and didn't make a joke. We put everything back. Each tab in its place. The way you put tools away when you want to find them in the dark. We shut the door. I spun the dial, clunked like a satisfied hinge. Can we add something? Lauren asked. What? She took a sheet of paper from her bag and wrote a line at the top. House rules, as agreed. She copied Marion's notice. With her own hand, for me, she said. So it's mine, not just a magnet. I slid it into the safe. Paper saves you from the next argument you don't need to have, the next week. Morales sent Charlie on a solo call with a checklist, a supervisor within 10 minutes, and a promise he could use my name if needed, which he didn't. The customer widow on Terrytown called Morales the next day and said, "Your kid took his shoes off when he stepped on my rug and explained every lock like a teacher. Keep him." 3 weeks later, the hoodie didn't come back. Packages sat and then left in the right hands. Wind waved when he rolled by. The porch did what porches do when they aren't being filmed. For evidence, they held up a roof and let light be light. On a Thursday, Lauren put Barbara's letter back in the safe with a note of her own taped to the front of the folder. Opened, kept. She added a photo of her and Charlie on the day he brought home a pay stub with smudged graphite. On it, and a smile that didn't have to audition. No captions. Not a story. A record. That night, the house exhaled. The maple tapped the gutter like a friend with polite knuckles. The 4th stair still creaked. I didn't flinch at it. At 2 a.m., nothing happened. That was the news. The drawer stayed shut. The safe slept. I did too. Asterisk, he showed up on a Wednesday noon with a grin that knew my name without having earned it. UNC. He said to Charlie over my shoulder as if I were the hallway, "You didn't tell me your father-in-law was this much house." He was late 30s, denim jacket carefully frayed, handshake that tried to break knuckles and failed at hello. He didn't give me his name until I asked twice. "Ray," he said finally. "Family." "From which side?" I asked. Family, he repeated, as if the word could pick a side for him. Lauren came in from the kitchen, apron dusted with flour, lemon zest on her thumb. We didn't know you were coming, she said, polite because she was raised right. We don't do drop-ins on weekdays. Had a job nearby, Ray said, angling to see past me. Thought I'd swing by, check on you all. Maybe talk to the big man about you no security upgrades. I do systems. He tilted his head toward the stairs. Heard you have a safe. Never a bad time to upgrade a lock. I can do a friend's. And family rate. You're not touching his locks, Lauren said. Before I could, Ray smiled too broadly. Hey, I get it. But, also, minor thing Charlie mentioned, there's an old loan between us that's come around again. Leaned his elbow on my doorframe like it had asked to be leaned on. You know how it is, family. I let the word sit between us until it got tired. No meetings without a neutral, I said. No money at the door. If you have an invoice, you can email it to my lawyer. If you're selling something, leave a card. We're not hiring. He blinked, smile dimming half a watt. You run everything through the suits? I run money through paper, I said. You can leave a card. We tried a different angle. And if God forbid something happens to you, you want someone in the family to be able to get into the safe so your daughter isn't stopped? Lauren said, voice clean. No one says God forbid in this house when they mean, give me your code. Ray's gaze flicked to Charlie for backup. Charlie didn't move. He'd learned something about doorways this month. Ray's smile fell off his face completely. Guess I misread the vibe, he said. No hard feelings. He pressed a card into the air anyway. Black, thick. A logo that thought it was more important than the phone number beneath it. I didn't take it. Lauren did. Then walked to the recycling and dropped it in, loud enough to count. Good luck. With your job, I said, not unkind. He left with a half salute he hadn't earned. We watched from the porch as he adjusted his jacket in his car mirror and took a photo of my house. He thought looked like reconnaissance and actually looked like why the porch needs fresh paint. When the door closed, Lauren exhaled. Thank you, she said, for not making me be the bad guy. You were the right guy, I said. Bad doesn't enter into it. That night, the van got tested. Morales and Charlie were packing up at a job on a 3-key, on a duplex whose landlord had finally decided to pick tenants better than whims win. A gray sedan rolled slow past, and friendlier than it needed to be. They felt the eyes. Load the duplicator first, Morales said under his breath. They locked the side panel before the last bin was in. Morales has a habit I like. He touches every latch twice. The second touch is for the days you need a ritual. More than a reason, at the gas station on the corner, while Morales went inside to pay cash for coffee, because he doesn't like his card absorbing the smell of diesel, the gray sedan slid into pumps over. The passenger hopped out, looked at the van's side door, did the universal test for vulnerability. Hand on handle, quick tug. At a glance at the men who owned the thing being tested. The handle didn't give. Charlie didn't yell. He didn't square his shoulders and make himself the movie. He pulled out his phone and took a calm photo of the license plate. He took a second photo of the man's face when the man turned to pretend to look at windshield wipers. He stepped into the store and told Morales, van's getting shopped. Plate 6XX3Q7. Guy in the passenger seat, hoodie. No rush. They moved the van to a pump in front of the store windows like you teach a kid to swim in the shallow end. Morales hit the alarm chirp to remind the van who it belonged to. The sedan idled for too long and then left. Back at the shop, Morales called it in. Sent the plate and stills to a buddy who runs parts for a tow outfit that sees everything in this town before it hits the official ink. And looked at Charlie the way men in trades look when somebody makes the right small decision. You didn't? Escalate, Morales said. Rule 3, Charlie said, not smiling too much. Make the wrong key stop. Come back tomorrow, Morales said. And buy a lockbox for your common sense. You're going to need it. At dinner, Morales texted me. Your guy's good. Kept his hands in his mouth where they belonged. I didn't read that text aloud. I didn't need to. The way Charlie crossed. The room to take plates from Lauren when she lifted the pan told me the same thing. A week after Ray's drop-in, Lauren asked me for a key. Not mine. Hers, Dad, she said, standing in the office doorway with her hair pulled back in Barbara's. Letter folded back into its envelope in her hand. I want my own box. Safe deposit? I asked. And a firebox here, she said. Copies in both. My documents. The letter. The budget Amaris helped me write. The plain blue flyer for next spring. I want to get in the habit of keeping the right things where they go bank tomorrow, I said. Box today. Went to First County, where the branch manager, Rita Patel, as a way of saying, of course, that makes you feel like you're not a bother. She walked Lauren through the process and the drill. 2 keys. Photo. Signature card. The door that looks like a cartoon, but isn't. Lauren slid her copies in the letter. The budget, the custody order, for a future that doesn't need it if today goes right and should have it if tomorrow doesn't. She wrote the number of the box on a card and gave 1 key to me. Keep it in your safe, she said. Not for you to use. For you to know. At home, we set a small firebox on a closet shelf and put the second set of copies inside. The key went on Lauren's ring-distinct yellow plastic cap, labeled, in her own hand, her own key. What about your safe code? She asked that night, not pressing, not pleading. Do you want to change it and put the new one in a sealed envelope at Marion's? Yes, I said. And no one here will know it. Good, she said. That's how grown-ups help. For a week, I hid one thing in my safe that didn't belong there. The envelope with Charlie on the front, the printout of the 8-year-old docket, the photos from the night hand-in drawer. I told myself it was prudent. Paper matters. Evidence keeps other people from telling you that your memory is the only thing heavy in the room. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, when the house was as quiet as a prayer after the amen, I opened the safe and looked at the envelope. Sitting like a threat I wasn't making and a protection I didn't want to hold. It didn't belong in the place where I keep our grown-up. I called Marion. I'm bringing a sealed envelope, I said. Put it in my file. Open it only if a judge asks you to, or if I'm not around, and someone decides to make this house a courtroom. And if no one asks, she said. Shred it, I said. In a year, I drove it to her office and watched her write the words I needed on the label, only if needed, otherwise destroy on date 1 year hence. She put it in a drawer that lives behind 2 locks and a receptionist whose eyes know when a person is here for paper and when they are here to make noise. I went home without the weight. The safe felt like a room again, not a bunker. The house felt like a house. That same evening, as if the house wanted to teach me the difference between paranoia and prudence. There was a knock at the door, Ray. Again, different smile. Same jacket. He had a man with him who looked like a loan turned into a person. 5 minutes, Ray said. In private. No, Lauren said over my shoulder. On the porch with the door open. Ray tried charm. The man tried silence. Neither worked here anymore. Listen, Ray said finally, dropping his voice. Charlie owes me. If he doesn't pay, people get creative about collections. Maybe a van gets scratched. Maybe a door gets tested. You don't want that. Called your boss last week, I said. The world where threats change locks faster than locksmiths is a world you can live in without us. The man in the hoodie looked up at that, the phrase called your boss. He didn't like being demoted to a man who took texts from men who took texts. He tugged Ray's sleeve. Let's go, he said. This house is boring. Exactly, I said. Close the gate behind you. They did, or the wind did. Either way, the latch clicked later on the couch. Lauren leaned her head on my shoulder like a daughter who had learned that boring is a place with heat. I like our rules, she said. I like not needing to hide keys. Said, tomorrow we oil the hinges so the 4th stair creaks when we want it to. She laughed. Charlie laughed with her. The house learned that sound again and kept it. Upstairs, the safe hummed its boring hum, full of paper and a watch that kept time without making demands. On my desk, 2 keys, the spare to Lauren's safe deposit box and the decoy that opened. Nothing but sanding pads and my memory of how easy it is to confuse metal with trust. The decoy key stayed. The envelope did not. My house is a place for plans and love and the dull papers that let you sleep. Not a museum for leverage. Asterisk plain blue's first applicant walked in carrying a folder with corners softened by use. Not performance. Names. Mason, he said, shaking my hand like a promise. 17. Work boots not new. Laces proud anyway. He opened the folder and slid a single page across my kitchen island, where we'd set coffee and 2 pencils under the lemon magnet with the house rules. First 90 days, said, tapping the header. No adjectives. His plan was tidy. As a cut line, week 1 to 2, finish HVAC helper hours. Shadow, at Tri-County Mechanical bus route mapped? No. 5:25 a.m., Lincoln stop. By monthly pass. Week 3, sit EPA 608 Core Plus Type 1 exam. $125 request, not demand. Study schedule MW79, PM after shift. Boots. Replace with composite toe $85 at Strauss with coupon. Tools. Manifold gauge set used. Line set cutter. Total $210 Craigslist links attached. Savings. 25% off each paycheck to credit union. Goal $500 by day 90. Rent. Keep with mom. Food cook rice and eggs. No DoorDash. Contingency. If ours cut. Weekend lawn jobs flyer attached. Bus route to Tri-County alternate if Lincoln route late. Bike 3 miles via Maple. He didn't ask for a laptop. He asked for boots and an exam fee. He didn't sell a sob story. He brought a bus map. Why HVAC? I asked because you asked because good air is a kind of dignity, sir. He said, not rehearsed, just true. People don't notice it till it's wrong. I like making the wrong go away. Lauren squeezed my forearm under the edge of the counter. It meant this is it. This is exactly it. We gave him the plain blue award, with nothing you could frame, just a check to Tri-County for the exam. A gift card to Strauss for boots, and a receipt pinned to his plan with a paperclip so he could keep score. He folded the plan, slid it back into his folder, smiled like a boy who'd learned to like boring. Come back after the test, I said. Tell me how it went. He nodded. Yes, sir. When he left, Charlie stood with his hand on the back of a chair he hadn't felt entitled to in a while. That kid's got more plan than I had at 22, he said softly. You have? One now, Lauren said, bumping his hip with hers. Aided.M. Van, 2 hands, rule 1. He had his own test that week. A property manager with too much gel and not enough ethics met. Morales and Charlie at a Reiki on a 6 unit were 3. Evictions had taught the wrong lessons. I'll need 2 for each door, the manager said, too casual, and a master cut for me. Just in case an emergency pops up. Under the table, we can manage your keys, not in the lease, Morales said, jaw muscles still. 2 for each tenant, 2 for you. No master, you want a master. We install. A legal system with consent. Paper, cost. Witness. Come on, the manager said, sliding a folded bill toward Charlie. Like friendship. Help me out. Charlie didn't puff up, didn't take offense. He kept both hands visible and said, keys are promises. We don't make ours lie. Then, because he's learning to speak boring, invoice goes to the email you used to book. We'll note tenant count. Ah! The manager laughed without humor. You're throwing away a tip, kid. Ah! Charlie glanced at Morales. Morales didn't. Nod. He didn't need to. Raise beats tip, Charlie said simply. Back at the shop, Morales wrote his first line in a different color on the whiteboard: apprentice. Locksmith trainee. Charlie then added a number next to his name. Not big, honest, slow raise, Morales said, tapping the number. Licensure in a year if you keep your yeses and nos in the right places. Charlie leaned against the counter, graphite under his nails, pride arranged small. Yes. Said we fix the 4th stair the next Saturday. You want me to take the creak out? Charlie asked. Pry bar ready, a smile tucked into the corner of his mouth like a nail where it belongs. Or is it part of the alarm system? I said, we'll tighten what's loose and leave enough voice to warn us. We pulled the tread old pine, nails like fossils. I showed him the trick I learned from a carpenter who taught me to sand first and argue later, cedar shim, would glue. 2 trim screws sunk at an angle to pull the stringer snug. He sunk them without splitting. Good hand, steady. We stepped on the stair. The complaint turned from a groan to a whisper. That one, he asked, heel testing the third board. Let it talk, I said. Houses deserve to keep a pulse. At 10 that night, Lauren used her own key. No code text. No, can you buzz me in? No ring at the quiet hour. She came in slow, lock turned soft, door clicked gentle. She set her bag on the bench and went to the hall closet where her firebox lives, not to the safe. She pivoted the key in her lock, opened, placed a sealed envelope inside white. Plain. I was in the office, finishing the month's list with a pencil I like because it doesn't skip. You all right? I asked. She smiled from the hallway, eyes bright from something that wasn't tears. Work thing, she said. A quiet win. I wanted to put it somewhere that wasn't online. Good, I said. Breakfast counts. Shh, grinned. It does. She closed her box, turned the key, slipped it back on her ring, and went upstairs. Charlie came out of the kitchen with 2 glasses of water, passed her on the stairs, kissed her cheek without ceremony, and followed. The 4th stair whispered. The house exhaled. 3 weeks later, Mason came back. Boots new. Exam passed. Wages $2 more an hour next month after try. County saw him show up early twice. He brought a copy of his certification and set it on my island. It's like a gift you want to watch someone open. Plain blue cover letter, he said, and laughed at himself. Thank you. Keep your air honest, I said. Tell us when you hit $500. We'll put a blade on your cutter that doesn't fight you. Nodded and left, plan back in the folder. The bus pass, peeking out like a flag. The van did 3 more reekies without anyone testing the doors. Wind waved from his cruiser. Ray sent one last text to Charlie, you still owe me. For the number died, and whatever network he belonged to decided to stop shopping on our street. The lemon magnet kept its duty. So did the rules. On a Tuesday that felt like June, even though it wasn't. I opened the safe to put away the renewal notice for the homeowner's insurance and the copy of Lauren's first raise letter, $1.25 more an hour at the clinic, after the nurse manager watched her fix a schedule without making a speech. I set the papers inside next to the watch, the trust, the deed, Barbara's letter, and the plain blue folder. I breathed like a man who knows where his keys are because he chose where to put them. The decoy keys stayed in the dresser. Opening nothing but a box of sanding pads and my memory of what it took to teach a house and a man to leave drawers shut at night, Charlie dusted the top of the dresser one morning, finger missing the key with intention, not fear. He saw it. He didn't touch it. He smiled at himself and left the room with a rag in his hand and graphite still under his nails. Lauren hung. A new photograph on the hallway, Wallace 3 on the porch. No logo, no step and repeat. It's just faces and a basil plant and a porch that needed paint and a Tuesday that decided to be a holiday for no reason except it could. She didn't caption it on the wall. She wrote on the back where only we would see. We keep our grown-up here. That night, the 4th stair whispered like a good habit. The porch light came on when it should. The cameras minded their own business. The house slept. We did 2 keys and safes and drawers and paper, promises and boundaries and boring. I used to think safety was a code you memorized in a steel box. Turns out it's a plan on the inside of a pantry door, a lemon magnet, a creek you decide to keep, a locksmith van at 8 a.m., and a daughter with her own key used the right way. What Charlie saw in that drawer he will never forget, his own name. On an envelope he hadn't earned, photographs that told on his hands. A line from a past he wanted to outrun, and a note in a lawyer's hand that said, "Sleep is a civil right." What I saw and will not forget was the look on his face the night the lamp came on and he said okay, and meant it. What the house saw was us learning. The safe upstairs is boring. That is its job. It holds paper that lets us sleep in a watch. That ticks. The drawer holds socks and a UV pen light and a decoy that opens nothing. The kitchen holds rules under a lemon magnet and scones if you come on the right day. The porch holds light. The 4th stair holds a whisper we chose to keep. The rest we hold together.